For my latest save, we're going to one of my favorite places in the world. This would be the Yanbian Korean Autonomous Prefecture of Jilin, China. Our goal is to dominate football in China. In fact, it would be nice if we could conquer all of AFC as well. And the club that we've chosen to take over is Chinese League One side Yanbian Longding. There's a history to this club, but before we talk about that, we really need to have a quick geography lesson. The part in orange is Jilin Province, China, and the part that's in red is Yanbian. As you can see, this is right on the North Korean border. Now, there are actually multiple parts to China's border with North Korea, and I've been to just about all of them. This is the border that is the most famous. This is on the Yalu River, or the Amnok River in Korean, which is in China's Liaoning Province. It's near Dandong. This was the site of the so-called MiG Alley in the Korean War, right where the MiG-15s were being manufactured by the combined communist forces. The river is also the site of the famous Broken Bridge, which is a reference to General MacArthur's frustration with then-President Truman's reluctance to allow Allied planes to violate Chinese airspace. As I understand it, MacArthur noted sarcastically that he couldn't bomb half a bridge. Of course, there is also the Sino-Korean Friendship Bridge right next to the Broken Bridge. This is a bridge that sees a lot of Chinese goods imported south to North Korea, but not a lot of goods coming back. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting history here, but we're not here for a major history lesson. And as always, as I've made mistakes, feel free to correct me down below in the comments. If you travel east along the Yalu River, you'll eventually get to Baekdu-san, or Changbai-shan in Chinese. That's the home of Heaven Lake, which is important in Korean mythology. And as you can see, Baekdu Mountain is right on the border of China and North Korea. Now, in happier times, there was actually quite a bit of economic development around Baekdu Mountain that was mostly done by South Korean firms. Sadly, though, the Chinese-South Korean economic relationship has sort of soured a little bit over recent times. The Tumen River lies immediately to the east of the mountain, and that is where things become interesting. In my opinion, the Tumen River is infinitely more interesting than the Yalu River, and it is the real gateway from China into North Korea. The natural scenery here is absolutely fabulous, especially in the summer. Both the Chinese and North Korean sides have been underdeveloped, and the result is an absolutely beautiful landscape. And that leads to great photo opportunities, like this shot of yours truly back in 2012. Now, as you can see in this video, they've tightened up security in the small town of Tumen quite a bit since I was last there. But the natural beauty of the region still stands out. But you know, it's not really the border that makes this region special. Now, it's the people. Yanbian is the home of most of the so-called Chaoxianzu, or ethnically Korean Chinese citizens that live in China. Those of you who speak Korean know them as the Chosunjok. Now, you have to understand something. These people didn't move to China because of the horrors of North Korea. That's far from the case. Rather, many of these families originally immigrated to China during the Japanese occupation of Korea. They were fleeing a different kind of horror. Now, you have to remember that back in those days, back before the Second World War, the border area really wasn't all that well demarcated or established, and Manchuria was really mostly farmland. Those were really different times. Wikipedia estimates that there are a little under 2 million Chaoxianzu in China. Honestly, based on my own experience, I think that's a low count. As you can see in this Chinese travel video of Yanji, the signs in the city are written in both Korean and Chinese. Actually, the entire Yanbian Prefecture is like this. In fact, even the Chinese personal identification cards, the famous Shenfenzheng, are written in both Chinese and Korean for residents of Yanbian, which is, I think, unique. In fact, the Xinhua bookstore in Yanji contains all sorts of books in Korean, including quite a few South Korean imports. Yeah, I was there once, way back in the day. In fact, when I was there, I was amazed that I could switch from Chinese to Korean while talking with the salespeople. They didn't even bat an eye. Now, if you watch programs like this CCTV4 report, you'll see obvious signs of Korean culture, the clothing, the food, and so on. But I really need to emphasize here that this is not North Korea, nor is it South Korea. It's culturally Korean, true, but it really is a mix of traditional Korean culture with contemporary China. This can be really confusing, especially to those of you who don't speak Korean or Chinese who are interested in this. So for example, the name Chaoshan that you see here, pronounced Choson in Korean, is the name of the old Choson dynasty that ruled over Korea for over 4 centuries. These days, however, Chaoshan refers both to the Choson dynasty and to North Korea itself, which makes things confusing. Though Chaoshan indeed refers to North Korea, it doesn't only mean North Korea. Now this problem comes up more often than you think, especially with machine translation. Though the Korean that they speak in Yanbian is a North Korean dialect, it's not really North Korea. You don't see a whole lot of people walking around, with those famous North Korean lapels near their heart. You don't hear locals speak the ridiculous political rhetoric of North Korea, and people there honestly are generally uninterested in North-South relations. I mean, culturally it's related, but it's clearly distinct. Well, naturally you can see why I'm so interested in managing this team. Now actually, Yanbian Longding is not the original Yanbian football club. There was an older club, Yanbian FC, that traced its roots back to 1955. As you can see from this KBS News broadcast from back in 2015, the team was actually quite popular. It was this season that Yanbian were finally promoted to the Chinese Super League. Yanbian actually did fairly well in their brief stay at the top. However, relegation combined with tax issues forced Yanbian FC out of business back in 2019. And Yanbian FC were not the only Chinese club that went bankrupt, far from it. Now, you might have missed this if you haven't been paying attention to Chinese football over the last 10 years or so. The days of Chinese teams having unlimited budgets are long gone. And actually, Chinese teams have been going bankrupt left and right. The most notable of these bankrupt clubs was Jiangsu FC, which went bankrupt in early March 2021, this despite the fact that they had just won the Chinese Super League. Clubs were lost left and right, in part due to the ravages of COVID-19, and in part because of a prohibition on corporate sponsorship of team names. And so the Yanbian club is a bit different, but no worries, the stadium is the same, the fans are the same, and even the jersey colors are the same. So hey, let's get a hold of them, go out there and win everything. Now, we could play through this the right way, building up our reputation slowly and making gradual advancements in the league, or we could do it the fun way. And, well, we're going to do it the fun way. I chose a tactic first, opting for Knap's well-named run like hell tactic. Okay, I know that it feels cheap to download a tactic and to just go for it. You might want to do things differently in your own project. I was more concerned personally with getting the story going than with tinkering around with tactics. And plus, I really kind of want to start using some of these famous created tactics. I also decided to use the fabulous Legends of the Beautiful Game database, a greatest player database that you really need to use if you haven't yet. My goal was to make Yanbian as Korean and Chinese as I could. So I went in ahead of time and I deleted the foreign players that they have in real life. I think they have 2 or 3 Brazilians. We're going to play with this team the right way. Well, I took the 4 Korean players in the Legends of the Beautiful Game database and gave them to Yanbian Longding. I also decided to gift them Chinese nationality to help us get past the foreign player limit. This included legendary striker Cha Pong-gun, who was a star in Germany in the 1980s. There was also Hong Yong-bo, a legendary defender who was a star of several South Korean World Cup squads. And then there was midfielder Park Ji-sung, who most of you should be familiar with. And of course there was Son Heung-min, who naturally would much rather play for Yanbian than Spurs. Now I had to take advantage of this to add in at least 1 North Korean player. And so I went for my old standby, Han Kwang-song. And then there was Lee Il-sung, who is clearly the best young North Korean player in the Football Manager 24 database. I grabbed him as well. Well, as you can see, I didn't exactly play by the rules. Now part of this is because I wanted to make something ridiculous just because it's ridiculous. And part of it is because I wanted to dominate quickly. But also, part of the reason why I did this is because China's registration rules have become really crazy. Like I said, those old days of free spending are completely over. We stayed away from China's obscure League 2, where no foreigners are allowed at all. China's League 1 allows for a maximum of 3 foreign players, and with a pretty strict salary cap of £66,000 per week. Interestingly enough, there are also wage limits on the salaries of domestic players, though I'm not sure the Football Manager does a good job of representing this. In reality, China has implemented both a wage salary cap of just under 100 million euros per year, as well as a 10 million euros per year salary cap on foreign players, and there's also a cap on individual contracts. Yeah, this should sound familiar. We went through a similar thing when we looked at the MLS in the United States, although I should note that the MLS has a salary cap that's a lot more onerous and more ridiculous than what China has. Now, the reason for this cap, just like the reason for any salary cap, is to prevent teams from going bankrupt after they spend money that they don't really have. Personally, I am opposed to salary caps. I don't see anything wrong with owners spending money like crazy, nor do I see anything wrong with them being punished by having their team go bankrupt after they did really stupid things. Well, my final cheat was to give us a front-end sugar daddy owner. That gave us an unlimited chest of money from which we could draw, which helped from time to time. In hindsight, I really didn't need to do that. I mean, we would have been just fine even without the sugar daddy owner. I just wanted to see what would happen. Now, right off the bat, I knew things were going to be ridiculous. Our first friendly ended in a 12-0 victory where Cha scored 5 goals. Yeah, I should know that the Chinese football season starts in the spring and ends in the fall. That's the same as the MLS. So that friendly at the start of the season took place in late March. I don't really understand why they don't play in the fall and the winter, but it's similar in Japan and South Korea. Interestingly, we weren't favored to win the league at the start of the season, presumably because our reputation was so low. We also had a hard time drawing fans. We sold only 4,000 season tickets that first season in our 30,000-seat stadium. This isn't accurate, by the way. In real life, Yanbian Longding, without the legendary players, has averaged over 10,000 per game. And believe me, the fans would have loved this team. Cha managed to score 7 goals against Guangzhou in what should have been a close match. The very next game, Cha scored another 6 as we demolished Suzhou Dongwu, the club that we were battling with for the title. Cha managed a mere 16 goals in 6 appearances in July, making me wonder if I fully understood the monster I had created. You'd think that we'd be able to win everything the first season, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Well, our adventure in the Chinese FA Cup came to an end sooner than we wanted. Zhejiang FC simply proved too much for our defenders to handle.
Can they make it tell? Poked him across. Oh, fabulous!
Our winning streak ended in early September at 20 matches in a row, many of which were clean sheets. We had the league wrapped up in early October, about a month before the season ended. That meant promotion for us. We managed an incredible goal differential of 103. Cha was the clear player of the year, scoring 46 goals in 23 appearances. And it wouldn't be any surprise to see that we absolutely dominated the season, finishing first in every statistical category. And of course, I wound up winning Manager of the Year. Cha's goal scoring that first season really was a sight to behold. However, the goal of the season went to Li Haojie for this scorcher. I guess that our reputation increased a little bit, but it wasn't much. All in all, though, it was a satisfying and dominant season. Well, there you have it. We got the easy part done, but we're not done yet. Wikipedia will tell you that the Chinese Super League is only about 20 years old. And that is true, but what the article doesn't tell you is that organized association football in China actually goes back to about 1978. And in fact, the game was played in an organized form well before that as well. Football was a feature of China's national games going back to 1910, which of course was near the end of the Qing dynasty. After the People's Republic of China was founded in 1949, China held a series of occasional amateur tournaments to determine a national football champion. Those games ceased during the Cultural Revolution. The oldest thing I could find resembling a proper league was this amateur league in 1978, which featured a combination of city teams and military teams. Now, football was quite prominent in China in those days. Take, for example, Deng Xiaoping's triumphant return to the public eye after the end of the Cultural Revolution. This was at a football match in 1977. And famously, West Brom went to China for a tour in 1978, playing a friendly in front of a crowd of over 90,000. I bring all of this up to dispel the rumor that you see often online that Chinese people just don't care about football. That's not true. Alongside basketball, football has really always been a huge sport in China. Of course, that doesn't mean that they always did everything right, but it does mean that the focus is there and that there still is a huge market for the sport. The Chinese Super League has slightly more liberal foreign player rules and thankfully a higher foreign player salary cap. Still though, this is a long way away from the crazy days of unlimited spending in China that we had just a few years ago. Yeah, it really is hard for me to wrap my head around this. I mean, China used to be the country in Football Manager that would buy off all your good players once they hit like 29 or 30 years old or so. Now it's Saudi Arabia, and China's league now all of a sudden is poor and underdeveloped. Unsurprisingly, Cha was predicted to be the best player in the league. However, our season ticket sales didn't really take off much, which was a shame. And neither the fans nor the board were expecting much from our first Chinese Super League match against Chengdu. All we could do was score.
Showed plenty of zest in getting to the ball. It is a fantastic goal! Looking for support. There it is! Tearing defences apart. And you know the keeper. He's on the move. They've done it! Oh, how good is he? Just the keeper to beat. That is delicious!
We were off and running from the start. In hindsight, I might have made this team a little bit too powerful. Our first loss came in May against Beijing. Beijing had won the league in 2023 and were in the middle of a huge winning streak when we faced them. In mid-July, Beijing's unbeaten streak hit 30 games and we were 7 full points behind them. We were still behind Beijing when they came to Yanji for a huge home match in early August. But we took control early on.
Drills one in. Position here. Fires it in low. And it's there! Hit forward, looking for an outlet. Dispatch clinically.
We were up 3-0 when Zhang Qiang was sent off for this ridiculous tackle.
Referees had to think about this for a moment.
But we won a penalty just a few minutes later.
Get set. Oh, sweet as you like!
And this shot by Hong Myung-bo finished off our dominating win. We faced Beijing again in an FA Cup semi-final match just 2 weeks later and barely won after this lovely goal. Well, I guess we could consider it a rivalry. Well, sort of a rivalry, that is. The truth is that Beijing just completely fell apart after we beat them in that big league match, and as for us, we just kept winning. We were in first place by the middle of September. On September 22nd, we officially qualified for a Champions League spot. That came on the back of a big win against Wuhan, thanks in large part to this ridiculous goal by Hong Myung-bo. Football Manager tried to play up a race to the finish line between Yanbian and Beijing. Well, we ended up losing our match against Shanghai Shenhua on October 5th. The final score was 1-0 and this was the only goal. But that loss didn't matter. We won the league that day anyway. The final standings told the story. It really wasn't much of a race, and Beijing found themselves in third place when all was said and done. We had the best stats in the league once again. I won the Manager of the Year award for the second season in a row. And then there was the little matter of the Chinese FA Cup final, which took place over 2 legs. We were facing Shandong, and both the board and fans expected a loss. You'd think that they would have learned by now that we've got a good team. Oh well. It looked like we were going to run away with it. We scored in the 13th minute. This beautiful play 2 minutes later was sadly called back for offside. We scored legitimately on this play about 7 minutes later. We were now up 2-0. However, our defense had a hard time in this match.
What can they do now? Good communication between them. Who wants it? It's in!
This goal made it 3-1 Yanbian.
Come through. Continues from here. Magnificent!
But then Krizan scored again for Shandong, now narrowing our lead to 3-2.
Brilliant goal!
It looked like they had equalized with only seconds remaining, but it was called back.
Sweet feet. plays a clever pass. Thrust his way through.
And so we came away with a tight victory in the first leg. Son Heung-min was suspended for the second leg after picking up too many yellow cards. Over 56,000 people turned up to watch the second leg of the final. The board expected a victory, which was a relief. The fans were a bit more pessimistic. Miguel Sandberg, a Swedish-Taiwanese striker I signed in February 2024, helped create the first goal for Cha. But it was Krizan scoring again to equalize. And then things went from bad to worse when Park Ji-sung picked up a second yellow card in the 61st minute.
No hesitation, he's straight into his pocket. It's a second yellow card and he walks.
But Cha scored again anyway.
So impressive. That is delicious!
And that was all we needed. We had completed the double, and we had our sights on even more accolades. I managed to make it to the China Hall of Fame after only 2 seasons. Cha was named Player of the Year once again after a devastating 51 goals in 36 matches. And Cha was also clearly the leader in shirt sales. Our reputation increased impressively this time around, and we dominated everything once again. But we're not stopping there, we've still got one more mountain to climb. The modern history of Chinese football has been marked in large part by frustration in international play. Though we forget about it today, China came extremely close to qualifying for the 1982 World Cup. New Zealand won the final qualifying playoff game 2-1, just barely beating China out. And that was really the start of a lot of international disappointment for China. Hong Kong, of all places, deflated the hopes that an even better Chinese team had of qualifying for the 1986 World Cup. Now, China did eventually qualify for a World Cup in 2002, but it was embarrassed in 3 matches, failing to score even a single goal. More recently, China's 2022 World Cup ambitions were shut down by Vietnam, of all countries, a nation whose footballing rise parallels China's steady decline. China is still in the running for World Cup 2026 qualifying, but just barely. It struggled with Thailand, another Southeast Asian country on the rise. This late equalizer saved China from an embarrassing round 2 exit. Now, Chinese clubs have fared somewhat better in the AFC Champions League. Well, that is, they did back before the Chinese clubs ran out of money. Guangzhou Evergrande beat FC Seoul on away goals in the 2-legged final back in 2013. Guangzhou then managed to do it once again in 2015 thanks to this impressive second-half goal. I remember watching a Star Sports documentary while I was in China back in 2015 or so about Guangzhou Evergrande. The club had aspirations to become one of the biggest in the world. It's all but forgotten today, but Evergrande Group had planned on building a 100,000-seat stadium in Guangzhou for the club back in 2020. In the end, China's property crisis resulted in Evergrande Group's huge debts, canceling the stadium project. In 2023, the one-time champions of Asia found themselves in 12th place in League One, presumably happy to not be one of the teams that were dissolved due to economic issues. We really need another Chinese club to emerge as continental champions, and I think that at Yanbian Longding, we have the team to do it. The board expected us to win everything domestic in 2025. Notice, though, that the AFC Champions League wasn't listed there on the board's expectations. That's because the AFC Champions League doesn't start until September. That's when the domestic league season is almost done. That is one reason why I think it doesn't make sense to have your domestic league play in the summer. I mean, I'm sure that there are climate reasons for it, but when it comes to Football Manager, it really hurts my head. We were expected to dominate once again. We started off strong, destroying Shanghai Port in the preseason China Super Cup.
Well weighted.
However, trouble struck in early July when a Saudi club met Park Ji-sung's release clause. Well, he was on a low release clause. I mean, there was really nothing I could do about it, and that's what happens when you have a club with great players but with no reputation. I mean, in the end, it's just part of the game. Fortunately, we had enough good young players to make up for the loss of the legend. Our first loss came in late July, a 4-3 thriller against Wuhan that showed how poor we still were in the back. I compensated by throwing some money at a new goalkeeper, Liu Ziyang, who I got for cheap off Bayern München. Yet for some strange reason, the game restricted the amount that I could pay for him. I had less talented and less reputable goalkeepers under contract for more money at the same time, so I'm not sure what caused this bug, but in the end it didn't really matter. I thought we looked good to win our Champions League group when the draw was announced, and the fans were really excited to see Yokohama come into town in mid-September. But boy, were we ever in for a rude awakening. We managed to get that goal back,
Nice and neat. Tearing defenses. Good position here.
but then our defense let us down minutes later.
He's still got it. Goal!
And this one just looked awful.
Well played. Poked it across. Still alive. That is a gem! An absolute gem!
Well, we followed that one up with another loss, this time in the league. Then we lost again, 3 losses in a row. Yeah, I mentioned this to emphasize that you're probably never going to have a football manager team that simply wins everything. It might be possible to be invincible, but it's really, really hard. Now, we did manage to clinch the China Super League title again, thanks in large part to this overwhelming performance against Shanghai Port.
With a trademark flourish. Get away. He's got himself an absolute peach.
I came away as the manager of the year once again. Cha won Player of the Year for the 3rd straight year. Our left back managed to win an award for being the most popular domestic player. But there was still the Champions League problem, and really it only got more frustrating from there. Right before the Chinese FA Cup, we faced Yokohama once again, this time in Japan.
Retain possession. What can they do with it? Oh, that's brilliant!
I thought we couldn't be stopped by this point.
Oh, wonderful! What a goal!
We had good luck when this goal was called back for offside.
Pass. Just to keep it a beat. Wait for it.
And we followed that up by scoring our 3rd.
That is outstanding!
But then it all went wrong.
Starting to find rhythm. Very dangerous. Oh, it really is a finish of the highest order. The clear. Total control. Great quality on that. Good reason for optimism here. It back. And that's been levered clear. And it's there!
We went ahead 4-3 with this one right before the end of the first half.
Oh, it's a stunning goal!
Yeah, that's right, 7 goals in the first half. It was that kind of game. But we couldn't win anything in the air.
And that's been levered clear. Perfect positioning. Now then. Oh, fabulous!
Young center back Chi Bo made an awful decision here.
He puts the ball down on the spot. They've done it!
And we lost that match 5-4 in one of the most frustrating football manager games I've ever played. We did win the FA Cup again though with an incredible 9-0 aggregate victory over Shanghai Shenhua. And that gave us a famous treble. And so we went off to Thailand to play at BG Pathum United in the biggest match we'd had yet. And as you can see, most of our players were injured. True to form, we gave up a ridiculous penalty at the start. But we came back before long.
To hold it up, no one to pick out. It's a beauty! Plays it out to the flank. Deliver a better ball. Oh my word, that is fantastic!
This third goal was more than enough to see us through.
Dispatch clinically.
We wound up with a 5-3 victory, good enough to see us through to the knockout stages. This really was a miracle win for us, and I had hopes that we could see ourselves through to the end. Our first opponents were Fukuoka, another Japanese side, and we had to play them in early February. Well, like I said, I just hate it when these leagues decide to play in the summer. If we all played in the fall and winter, this would have been so much easier. Because of this, our players only had something like 4 weeks off at the end of the season, and then it was back to business as usual. The game gave me a choice, actually. I could have given the players some additional time off, but of course I chose to have them come back earlier. As you can see, we won the league easily, and our reputation grew quite a bit as a result. Cha, meanwhile, was now the AFC Player of the Year after another stellar performance. But of course that wasn't going to be enough. We needed better defenders, and unfortunately I could not find any young Chinese defenders who were good enough, so I gave in and just went for some foreigners. We signed Samson Dway on a free transfer to a really large contract. Next came Kialonda Gaspar, who was in the last year of his contract. And then came Abubakar Low, who sadly wasn't quite as good as the scouts said. But then came a big registration problem. The mistake I made was forgetting about that domestic league salary cap. Dway could play in the Champions League without any problem, but his salary was so high that we couldn't register him for the domestic league, and that caused a lot of problems in Football Manager's morale system. About half of the squad was upset for the rest of the way because of this mistake. The first leg at Fukuoka ended in a 2-2 draw after they scored this late equalizer.
Taking the initiative. We've got a goal!
But then came the second leg.
And a foul coming in at the back stick. It's in! And that's been forced on them. Well weighted. Oh, that is sensational!
We scored so many times that I can't show you all the goals.
What can they make of this?
Our dominating 7-1 victory saw us through to the next round. Leading the way, Jung Sang-bing, the South Korean striker who I managed to sign for cheap near the end of 2025. This truly was a shock victory for us. But the big shock came a few days later when Hong Myung-bo was injured, out for at least a year. And then Shirla, one of our up-and-coming young players, was sold from under me when Beijing came in with a huge offer. Shirla didn't make a single appearance for our senior squad, and yet we more than doubled our money from him. Go figure. You know, I thought that this wouldn't happen when I created the Sugar Daddy owner and gave him the lowest possible interference rating. But oh well. The biggest problem here, though, is not that this young player was sold. It's that the registration for the AFC Champions League had ended by that point, but the transfer window was still open. That means that I could not put another player on the club up to replace him. And that's one of those things that you don't really realize until you actually play through one of these saves. It was back to Japan in early March where we took on Kawasaki in the first leg.
Driving on a real charge here.
We won that first leg 5-0 and started off the home leg on the ice by scoring like crazy.
He's got away. Motoring forward to the back post. And how good was that?
This time we managed an 11-1 aggregate victory. Fittingly, we were up against South Korean side Ulsan in the semi-final. Now, by this time, the new Chinese Super League season had started again. We beat Shandong easily in the Chinese Super Cup 2-0. And we found ourselves back on the podium yet again. But unfortunately, all this success didn't translate into many more season ticket sales for us. Our reputation keeps increasing. Honestly, I'm not sure what's going on with the season ticket sales. Maybe it's a glitch? Our first leg match against Ulsan was an all-time classic. A defensive breakdown on our part led to an early goal.
That's well played. On the front foot here. There it is!
It took us a while, but we did manage to equalize right on the 60-minute mark.
A good area. Oh, how good is he?
And then came this.
What can they make of it? Sharp ball movement. Takes a look up. Oh, fabulous!
But then they came back.
Sumptuous finish, an absolute joy!
Han Kwang-song scored a miracle in the 88th minute.
This is a very good run. That is terrific skill. Move and a perfect ending.
But then this happened.
Just plotting a route round their opponents. Sumptuous finish, an absolute joy.
And finally came the dramatic ending.
Put me into the space. Well seen. Oh, that is sensational!
Well, I can't say that I really want to play another one like this. The home leg wound up being anticlimactic. This goal put us up 3-1. That victory put us in the final. This time we were up against Saudi squad Al Hilal. And, fortunately for us, this was a two-legged final, one where away goals still counted. I still can't believe it, 3 seasons in and we're about to win the AFC Champions League. Nobody thought that we would win the first leg, but we came storming out of the gate. We were up 2-0 before 10 minutes had been played.
He's got himself an absolute peach.
However, our defensive struggles continued to haunt us.
Oh, good ball. Oh, nice touch, that's beautiful. It is breathless stuff. Nicely measured pass. Oh, how good is he? Looking for an outlet. Waited. Tidy interchange. Poked it across. Still alive.
And so we wound up with a 2-2 draw. Well, that set us up for the do-or-die match, the big one, and we were at home for this one. Once again, nobody thought that we would win. In fact, we had a surprisingly low turnout, something that really bothers me. I mean, sure, the final was scheduled for 3 p.m. local time, I get it. But it was on May 16th, 2026, which is a Saturday. We should have had a sellout. So, I mean, what's going on with this? Han Kwang-song rewarded our few fans with a world beater early in the first half.
Ball into space. Not devoid of action. That is a gem! An absolute gem!
But then, with only minutes remaining, they won this controversial penalty.
That has sent him sprawling. Big chance from 12 yards. That is delicious!
Really, though, that was it. We wound up winning the AFC Champions League due to the away goals rule. It really was an incredible victory, a fitting end to a project that went better than I expected. We might not have dominated the final matches, but we played well enough to win. And we were by far the most dominant team in the entire AFC Champions League. Cha wound up being the best of all of our super players, averaging over 40 goals a season in the league alone. Hong Myung-bo played well, but was hampered by that awful injury in 2026. Son played as well as you could expect him to play and had a real breakout season in 2025. And Park Ji-sung played well before he was rudely taken away from us. Han Kwang-song, the North Korean, was an absolute superstar. I still think that you need to sign him no matter where you're playing in FM24. Eo Song, on the other hand, was a bit of a disappointment. Meanwhile, Meng Jinghao was the best of the newly generated Chinese players. He would have been good enough for us to build a full club around if I had continued with this save. Well, there you have it. Now, a little bit of advice, if you do decide to play in China, make sure that you watch out for that foreigner salary cap so it doesn't bite you like it bit me. And also, really, you need to be prepared for a long road when you make the AFC Champions League. Overall, though, this was a ton of fun, although I will admit it was kind of hard to focus on anything domestic with all of the fun in the AFC.